Yeah, I had a question. I never did bows. I never liked to do bows for
Mm,
some reason for my thing. So I would only do them on retreats. So for this Heart Kyolche, one of the things I added was to do bows. So I've been doing them about a week, and I've been stunned at how helpful they are at clearing mind.
mm.
Um, know that you've done lots of vows, but my question was this: even just after a week, sometimes during the day, if I'm got something I'm trying to get done, I'll think, "Oh, do bow mind and get through this," and it's been powerful. But my question is this: my practice time is usually pretty good, but there's so many hours in the day. My question is, how do you hold your mind the rest of the day, and how do I use bow mind in everything I do all day long?
Good question. If you have no mind, then no problem. It's like trees. The tree's job is grow up, and it just does it. Then the wind blows, and it just does it. It bends with the wind. It doesn't think about, oh, I'm tired. I'll do it. I'll bend tomorrow. I don't feel like bending today. So it's not always easy to do because we have desires. We want to feel good, or we want to rest, or we want something. Then it's harder to follow the situation. So one time, Seung in a poem said, follow situation, attain happiness. When you're bowing, yeah, you've decided to bow, you bow. We often say bowing practice is mind and body become one very quickly. When we're asleep in bed, the body is asleep, but what Buddha called the seventh and eighth consciousness is, it's doing something often. So you have some dream, it creates a dream. And in the dream, there's an I. And the I is, it's going to Thailand and laying on a beach, or it's running away from a monster, something's happening. But your body's not doing that. So this seventh and the body consciousness is called the six consciousnesses: eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and simple thinking. So they're separate at that time. Then when we wake up, they're often still separate. So in the modern world, we grab a cup of coffee. But in the Zen Center, what we always do is bow, because somehow this action, which kind of has no particular purpose other than just do it, other than practicing just do it, quickly brings our body and mind together. Then, like you said, you can experience this. Then when it's time to do something that I might have some resistance to doing during the day, maybe I'm supposed to, I washed the laundry, now I got to fold it, and I've seen my own mind. It's like, I can fold it later, but you get this bowing mind. Okay, no, I'll do it now. And then suddenly it's done. So by doing practice like this, that experience you can remember through the day. And as you get yourself to do those things, that becomes similar to bowing. And we develop this sense inside of this do it ability, regardless of what the circumstances are. Now, for myself, Seung instructed me to do a lot of bowing. And of course, I had become a monk, so I could fit it into my daily life, quite well. Actually, for me, it started when I was in my regular lots of bowing. I did it in fits and starts when I was a layperson. I spent 7 years living in the Zen Center as a layperson. 3 of those years working outside and 4 years working for the Zen Center. But after I became a monk, I was in Paris and I was the abbot. I'd gone to, this is really don't know, because I'd gone to Paris for 3 days and I ended up there for 3 years. And shortly after I arrived, the abbot, who was a French nun, ran away, and they called Saint and he made me abbot. So, but one time I called him up and when I had a specific problem about the Zen Center or a person, I'd call him up for advice. But this time I was having many problems and I realized the real problem was me. So I called him up and I said, "Sir, I'm very emotional and my center's not strong." And then Sansanin said to me, he said, "I understand your karma. Your karma is midnight practicing. You must get up at midnight, 108 bows, 50 minutes sitting, 108 bows, 50 minutes sitting, 108 bows, 2 a.m., again sleeping." And he repeated it 3 times, and it sounded like, go to Disneyland, or what's it in Korea called? Everland or something, some amusement, latte world. Go there and go on all the rides and eat your favorite food. And then the next day, do it again. He made it sound like the most fun thing in the world. And I remember he ended with saying, "Even if the world turns upside down, you must do it." So I did it. And it took close to 3 weeks to really have the effect of making me stronger. I mean, you're getting a good effect after 1 week. That's great. And eventually later, because it's hard to live in the world in a Zen center with lots of lay people or in your lives and get up from midnight to 2 a.m. every night. So he told me later, do 500 bows every day. And it took me a while to find out a good time to do that. Even as a monk, I found the best time was wake up an hour early before everybody else. And kind of like mom mind. Wake up early. It's a bummer, you know, it's hard training, but it's like a mother's mind, you know. And that worked very well. And then you start to turn certain things in your normal daily life into the same kind of do it. It's easier with simple tasks like laundry or cleaning a room, but you have to, you know, train yourself as you do those activities to cut your unnecessary thinking. So in Korea, I often give the example of washing dishes. When you're washing dishes, what are you thinking? You know, my husband's no good. My children are no good. They don't listen to me. Nobody cares of all the work I put in here, you know, that kind of thinking. And I remember thinking that as a young monk, this cook is so messy. You know, I'd be washing the dishes. I never want to wash dishes after this cook. That cook is really clean, you know, or this housemaster's no good. The abbot's no good. I hate the Zen master. I also had that kind of thinking. My favorite thought was, as I'm washing dishes once many years ago in Cumberland, I'm thinking, why do humans have to eat? If humans didn't have to eat, I wouldn't have to wash these dishes. But that's not a good way to go about it. Treat the sink as your sunbang. Treat the, you know, as your Zen hall, as your Buddha hall, and turn washing dishes into practice. Just do it. And you can see the water coming out, you can feel it. You're very aware of the moment-to-moment experience, or you just do it and you don't worry about that. But your senses start to wake up slowly when you have this do it, do it. So you can take that bowing mind into parts of your life, but you can also find parts of your life that you turn into practice. You know, I have to answer email, so sit down and do it, you know. Subangsanim often talked about how his work experience as a carpenter helped his practice. He was on a job where they were building like 20 houses, carpenters, and they would build the basic frame. And his job was to go around and make sure the frame had been built correctly. And if the framing for the window was off, he had to tear it apart and rebuild it. And he said he would get angry every time there was a mistake done because then he had to fix it. But that was his job, you know. When he finally realized that, he'd stop complaining to himself and he would just do his job. Very similarly, in meditation or in his practice, he realized, why am I thinking so much? He stopped that complaining and just put more effort back into his practice. If it was sitting and doing mantra, he'd cut the complaining and do the mantra, and the complaining would reappear. And he'd do the mantra, and the complaining would reappear, but less. And then one day he found he didn't complain much to himself anymore. It took time. It took time. But he turned, you know, because his job taught him something that he could put into his practice. So the way I do it is I just turn my everyday life activity into practice. The reason we bow, chant, and sit is because they're very simple activities and we can see our mind. We can see the unnecessary, unhelpful feelings and thinkings that we create as a habit appear. Where actually when we're sitting, the universe doesn't want anything from us at that moment except slowly breathe in, slowly breathe out. If I have lots of thinking, maybe I have a tool to use, a mantra, or, you know, I keep a big question, or in Southern Buddhist style, you know, we keep, how can I say, you name, oh, now I'm thinking, okay? There's many techniques to deal with that. And that's starting to take away these habits that draw us away from just now. And the thing is, we all want happiness, but Buddha taught all happiness is when you're present just now. And if it's difficult, you just do it. You just try. And the happiness comes from that. I had an experience where I had to have a nose operation because I was in a fight and I broke my nose. But I didn't have the operation for 25 years. But then Seung Santanim heard that I didn't breathe well. And he said, why? And I said, oh, I broke my nose when I was young and there's no air goes up and down here, but I just didn't fix it. Then he said, soon fix. And Santanim was very simple. You know, he didn't use, maybe it was good that he didn't speak much English, only a little bit of English, because he used English very directly. Soon fix. One time I came in front of him when I was a brand new student and I just stood there and he looked at me and he said, talk, you know? And when I finished, he gave me some teaching and then I just stood there and he said, go, you know? So it was like, I should learn to talk like that, you know, it's really saves energy. But anyway, I had this operation and one night, the night after the operation, you know, it was very painful and the nurse gave me an injection of, I guess, a painkiller, and it was wonderful. I can see how people get addicted to painkillers. It was great, you know, and I slept very well. And the next day I had pain and they gave me an injection and, you know, it felt better. And then nighttime came and I was in lots of pain and I asked for an injection and the nurse looked at her watch and he said, can't have one till tomorrow. You know, they don't want you to get addicted, you know. And I was up all night. And first I was laying in bed, slow breathe in, you know, through my mouth, of course, slow breathe out, and doing mantra. And finally at 1 a.m. I was frustrated. So I got up with the IV bag, you know, and the little stand, and I walked around the unit for 2 hours doing the Great Dharani, and it still hurt. And so I thought, television, you know. So at 3 a.m. I went into the TV room and there was a sign in Korean, no television midnight to 7 a.m. So I was really bummed out. And I was sitting in a chair doing mantra and I was thinking my practice isn't working. And then I thought, no, wait, that doesn't make sense. You know, why do I say it's not working? Because I'm doing mantra and it doesn't take away the pain. I want the pain to go away. That's why I think it's not working. But practice means be clear. So suddenly it was very clear. Shimyo Changu Te Tarani, 3 a.m. and my nose hurts. You know, it was very clear. It wasn't good or bad, it was clear. And of the 5 days I spent in the hospital, the couple hours that I sat there in the TV room doing the mantra and being in pain were the most vivid. That's what I remember because it was very clear. And in a way, it gave me a certain happiness. And it gave me what I think they mean by prajna, wisdom, because I realized my pain's not serious. I'm going to get better. Yeah, it hurts a lot and I can't sleep. But in a few days, I'll be better and I'll go home. But there's a lot of people in this hospital, older people, younger people, who may have more pain or even less pain, but they're not going home. They're going to die here. Or they're really having a hard time. I just had an optional operation. That's all. So you could see things more clearly, how even my situation, which I can think of as so bad, it's not that bad, you know. When I was in Paris and it was very difficult in the Zen Center, I made up this saying that I would say when people would complain. At that time, there was a civil war in Lebanon in the Middle East, and the capital of Lebanon is Beirut. So when people would complain, I would just say, better than Beirut. So one of my friends started joking, BTB, better than Beirut. And then in around 2003, when people would complain, I'd say, better than Baghdad, you know. So it was like, you know, we get so involved in our own situation. We don't see the world. We don't see, we don't have a healthy perspective. And so we don't get wisdom. You know, even if we're dying, maybe when we're dying, we'll think, well, everything dies. You know, trees die, planets die. What am I complaining about? You know, I got 70 years here. And according to Buddhism, I'm coming back, maybe whether I want to or not. So I might as well try to be happy this moment, because soon, oh no, I'm going to be in school again. I liked primary school, but middle school and high school was bleh. So I'm going to have to do that again. I hope I'm more clear next time. So you can get a perspective. So the way I do it is, you know, is take my experiences from formal practice and try and turn increasingly aspects of my daily life into the same mind of, you know, just do it. And they help each other. They help
Yeah.
each other, you know. Good question.